All right, let's bring in Evan Siegfried. He's a political commentator and a Republican strategist, and he's in New York City today. 4 days left. What are you looking for? What are you watching for?
Well, at this point, I'm just looking at the early voting numbers because those are going to give us a little bit of a hint in where we can see data on it as to how the electorate is doing and reacting to both campaigns, as well as who's actually been making their case to the American people. And the place I'm looking at most is Pennsylvania, where we've seen over 1.5 million Pennsylvanians vote early. Among them, 900,000 women and 700,000 men. That benefits Kamala Harris by the common logic because women are absolutely flocking away from Donald Trump, whether he likes it or not, to Kamala Harris, whereas men are much more in line with Trump. The other thing that's very interesting is the senior vote in Pennsylvania. Ordinarily, senior citizens, Americans over the age of 65, vote Republican. But in the last few cycles, including midterms from 2018 on, we've seen seniors, which are a reliable Republican bloc, move from double digits for Republicans to single digits to just about a toss-up. And now we've seen among the voters who have voted in Pennsylvania so far, 58% of them are 58% of senior voters are Democrats versus Republicans. So that is also very good for Kamala Harris.
Talk to me about the polls too. Being in a very tight race, neck and neck. I mean, the polls were way off in 2016. Of course, Hillary Clinton knows that very well. They were also off in 2020. They undercounted support for Donald Trump, even though Joe Biden would go on to become president. They were wrong in the midterm elections 2 years ago, where there was supposed to be a big red surge, and there really wasn't. What about this time around? What are you looking at?
I'm looking at the reliable polls. There are polling groups out there that have never existed before who are coming out and saying, oh, Donald Trump is winning in this way or Kamala Harris is winning in that way. And they're skewed polls. Those I don't count and I don't look at. You can look at a poll like Marist, the New York Times, the Associated Press, YouGov, and The Economist. Those are established polling outfits that understand how to do polling. Nonetheless, they still, as you said, were off and had an undercount in 2016 and 2020 when it came to Donald Trump. And in 2022, there was a significant undercount on Democrats. The undercount was a 4-point difference, where it showed there was going to be a big red wave and Republicans were going to have a massive majority in the House and possibly take the Senate. But it ended up being a Republican very slim majority. It was a trickle. And the reason for that was because of Roe v. Wade being overturned and abortion and women's health care access going to the fore. We are seeing a lot more Republican women very quietly going out and leaning toward Kamala Harris. And those are white, suburban, college-educated women. College-educated Americans are now more likely to vote for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. Donald Trump lost that vote by 3 points in 2020. But right now in current polling, he is losing that vote by 13 to 17 points, depending upon the polling. It is a huge problem for him, which he needs to make up for by turning out rural voters and non-college-educated white voters, as well as getting the young men that he's been chasing after by going on the Joe Rogan podcast and other platforms that appeal to them, Jake Paul, etc., because they are key. However, that younger male demographic, they may say they're going to vote. Historically, they never do.
It sounds to me like you think Kamala Harris may have the slight advantage here going into Tuesday, Evan.
She may. I think that she is somewhat I think you can be somewhat optimistic if you're the Harris campaign right now, but you never know. Hillary Clinton was very optimistic in 2016. Donald Trump was very optimistic in 2020 before everything went against him. And it probably is going to be the same way. Right now, both campaigns are going out and saying, we're great, or we're really in a good position, and we're really strong. But privately, anybody or any pharmacy near any of the campaign headquarters is probably running low on Xanax because every staff member is taking it.
Evan Siegfried joining us from New York, Republican strategist with his take. Hey, looking forward to talking to you next week as we get down to crunch time. Thanks for this in the meantime.
It's going to be fun, and then there'll be the lawsuits.
Or lawsuits.